And here we can see some gravel base being delivered by, I think this is from Rockery, being delivered to the driveway. Don't know how many tons this is, probably like 2 tons. But again, super handy to have this delivered. Of course, you know, when it does get delivered, you want to try and get it to the back pretty quickly. I kind of wish we'd had a mini skid steer to do a lot of that loading. It would have saved a lot of manual labor for the guys that I had working on this with their wheelbarrows. But ultimately, we were pretty limited in terms of the space that we had and the driveway. And so this is another delivery. This is the form lumber. This is coming from Truett and White. So that, again, they're delivering it to the driveway. Pretty cool how it gets delivered. It's a nice slow-mo video of it getting rolled onto the driveway. I think that was about $700 worth of lumber. So those are probably 2x12 by 16s, I believe. So those are going to be used to form the foundation. Got a few 2x4s in there as well. And then this was a rebar that we were going to use for the foundation. And I ended up needing a lot more rebar than what got delivered here. The engineered plans called for a lot of rebar throughout the foundation. And it goes pretty quick. I think there's 5/8 and 1/2 inch rod there. And so you can see these are the footings that are going in. So they're just compacting the gravel base into those footings with the jumping jack. And this is a trench that we dug. So this is for the electrical and for the water line from the main house. And you can see it's going in under the ADU to where the sub panel is going to be. The water line actually isn't going to run under the foundation. It's going to run along the side. So this is just electrical conduit you can see here. These are markers that were placed by the surveyors. So they came out and they put these in as reference points away from where we're going to dig, away from the footings, for example, because all of that gets disturbed as you're doing the work. So those were good reference points that we could use to know where we were and make sure that the forms are in the right place. And so you can see the forms beginning to go up. Of course, you know, one of the complexities here is that we're on the property line here. Or a little bit away from it on that side. But we had to form up very close to the property line. So you don't have a lot of space, you know, on the side neighbor's side. Luckily, you know, they didn't have any big structures there. They did have a shed, which meant part of it was pretty tight. But on the back here, there's actually a garage. And so limited space to work with. But you can see those forms beginning to go in and the string lines to show, you know, the footprint of the ADU. This is where the electrical conduit's coming up. So that's where the sub panel is going to be. So you have to figure that out. You want that to come out in the right place, ideally in the wall, to go directly up into your sub panel. The other line here, you can see that's for Ethernet cable. So we put in another conduit there, smaller one, for Ethernet. And you can see it running, it's running into the crawl space here. I think I'll probably turn around and show you where it's coming out. So yeah, it's going to come out here, and then there's going to be another electrical box that will connect the wire, service entry wire, to the wire that's going to go all the way to the front of the house. So you can see we're a little bit further along with the forming of the foundation here. We've got most of the sides up. You can see those are for the Simpson strong walls. Those are pretty beefy anchor bolts, and they come with these templates, so you have to buy the templates separately to get those in the right position. But it's very important to get those in the right position, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So you can see we've got some walls marked out here. This is kind of the bathroom. We've got the laser level out. We've got some kickers on the foundation forming. Because it's a little bit taller than we'd expected, there's going to be a lot of concrete, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on those forms. Okay, so here is the situation. So we've formed up the slab. As you might remember, this is the property line, and at the back here, and there's going to be a CMU block wall on those two sides. It's a 4-inch block, just like that one there. So that's going to be lying on top of the slab foundation right on the edge there. And the top form board is removed here just for access, but this is where the bifold door is going to be. So we've got two Simpson strong walls, one here and one here. The thing that I didn't plan for, I didn't realize, is this is the template. So this is going to be sitting somewhere around here, this sort of level. But of course, you know, because it's so close to the edge of the slab, I didn't realize it actually requires there to be a sort of pad footing here. So I'm just wondering what our options here are. This side is not on the property line, so this could be built out a little bit. We could make a pad here, for example. We could even extend it around the corner. Because the neighbors' lots are a bit higher than ours, we've had to make the slab higher than we'd initially planned for. And because our lot is low, it means it looks quite high from this side. Probably the more challenging side is going to be this one, because we have the property line here. But we do have the block wall, so the strong wall will be inset at least 3.5 inches. So I can build out a pad footing here, but I can't build anything over on that side. So just wondering what the options are here. Of course, this is only a 1-story build. There's going to be shear panels along the sides and the rear. So that was actually a little video recorded for our structural engineer to get his input on that issue, and he basically said that was okay. So that was just a little hiccup we came across. And you can see the plumbers are now in, and Marcel and Omar are putting in the sewer lines under the slab. You can see them working away there and using those 2x4s to mark out the walls. And of course, you know, because it was still early on in the year, there was occasionally a little bit of rain. So we put some tarps over the foundation to prevent it from becoming a big mud pit. Yeah, which was annoying, but you know, these things come up, and I'm glad that we put the tarps on, because I think it saved us a lot of hassle down the line. And those tarps came in useful for when we did the framing too. You can see I'm actually using some pumps to get rid of the water. There's quite a considerable amount of water. So this is after it's dried up a little bit and removing some of the tarps. Still see a little bit of water there, but it's coming together nicely, and we are getting closer and closer to actually being in a position to pour this foundation. Of course, there is still quite a bit of work to be done in terms of the rebar. This is just some of the stuff I was using to remove the water. You can see how waterlogged that ground is, which is really not ideal. This is Marcel, the plumber from Hilltown Plumbing in Oakland. Did some awesome work for me back in the day, and he's back doing the ADU for me.
So we did a drain lines for ADU here. We got a 3-inch drain line coming from there to the lateral, and we're gonna reconnect that pipe later after we pass the inspection. And we have the pipe going through this foundation here, wrapped with the foam insulation. Then we went all the way inside, and we have first connection. We have kitchen sink drain line, and then for the second connection we have bathroom sink and laundry all the way to the back. Then we have the connection for the top, and here's the top drain line, the vent line. Then we have the vent line for the toilet and the toilet back here. Then we have a 3-inch drain line going to the back. It's going to be a clean out and a house vent, and it's going all the way up 10 foot, and that's basically it.
What are we doing with this 10-foot pole, this pipe?
So we're just gonna fill it up with water, then make sure there's no leaks, leave it ready for when the inspector comes and check everything is right, and then we can drain the water later, and then we can cut the 10-foot pipe down after we pass the inspection.
Great.
Yeah.
Were there any challenging things about this job, or anything that you had to figure out beforehand?
Well, it looks like everything went really straightforward. There was not like big major problems. The only one was I think the slope coming from the driveway where the 2 lateral is, but we were able to get it with enough slope for everything, for every fixture, so the water will drain down easily and pass the inspection.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then later we'll be doing the water lines, but those are going to be coming from inside up on the walls, so we didn't have to do the water lines on the slab, and it's not recommendable to do the water lines on the slab, because if your water lines break later, then we're going to have an issue. But in this case, we were able to bring the pipes up on the ceiling, and that's the next project after we pass the inspection and all the walls are done. Yep.
So what's going to be the next phase of this project once the concrete slab is poured?
So after the concrete slab is poured, we are going to wait until the walls are done, framed. Then we can install our toilet flange, the T's for the drain lines. We can install the top. We can come with the drain lines out of the walls, and then have another inspection, which is going to be a rough inspection. Then we have to fill up the pipes with water again, and then bring the inspector to come look at it. And the same with the water lines. And we have no gas lines on this project.
Right, all electrical.
Yeah, all electrical.
What was the detail with the bathtub that we had to do here?
So we leave this drain line down here, and then later, after the concrete is poured, before the concrete is poured, we have to build a little box here, which the frame is gonna do later, so we can have access to the P-trap, which is recommendable if we have to replace the tub later, or we have another issue with the tub. Then we have this without concrete, and then we're gonna fill it up with sand. So there is not gonna be concrete on this 12. It's gonna be a 12 by about 10 inches square underneath the top, and it's not gonna be visible.
Great.
And then we have this foam to prevent the concrete to squeeze in the pipes or breaking the pipes later. It's just like a protection to isolate the pipes from the concrete.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks very much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you again a bit later.
See you in a few weeks or months.
So this is just a little bit later, once the plumbers are done and we've put in a bit of extra fill, covered up the drain pipes here, and it is getting closer and closer to being ready to go. Okay, so here we are, finished with the forming, and I think hopefully ready to pour next week. some of the details here. You can see these Simpson strong walls here, either side of where there's going to be a bifold. And one thing we didn't realize was we had to extend these footings here. Kind of annoying, but the anchor bolts for these sit right up against the form otherwise. Another few details here. We have a CMU block wall running along this left hand side and the back. So we put in these rebar verts. They're not actually called for, it's just a veneer wall, but thought it'd be good to put those in anyway. Because of the CMU block wall, the anchors for the wood framing are a bit further inside, so we had to use these wooden stakes instead of the blue Simpson bolt holders. We've got plenty of support because the ground is kind of soft, and right at the back there we're up against the property line, up against the neighbour's garage, and supports on the left here because it's actually going to be a lot of concrete. I think the slab's going to be somewhere around 7 inches thick, and pretty big footings, 21 inches on this side and the back, 16 around the front side and the right side here. Got a 15mm vapor barrier. Have our under slab plumbing with the sewer line coming down here, joining to the sewer line, sewer lateral over there. We have our electrical conduit coming down through here, running to the middle there, and we have a UFA ground with the copper wire running along the rebar. So thankfully the rain stopped and we are now getting even closer to being ready to pour. You can see we put some foil over the anchor bolts there. That's just to stop concrete getting on those threads. There's a nice little tip that I picked up from someone on YouTube. And you can see we put some more supports in to hold those forms in place. There's our CMU blocks. They are 3.5 inches by 12 or 11.5, something like that. And so I'm just making sure that we've got all of the spacing right. Those rebar verts want to go through the gaps in those CMU blocks to give them additional support. So just checking that. And checking at the back as well. I kind of wish we'd put in a few more rebar verts actually, in retrospect. I think these were like 3 foot apart. I kind of wish we'd put them 2 foot apart, but never mind. They weren't even called for on the plans. So you can see removing the cap there, there's still water in there, so thankfully no leaks. We've got the rebar, we've got the dobies holding that rebar up on the vapor barrier. And now we are actually getting ready to pour the foundation. So before getting to this step, I had to get the special inspector out to inspect the rebar. I had to get the surveyor out to certify the forms, and the Oakland city inspector to give us the okay and say that we were ready to pour. What you don't want to do is try and get that permission after you've poured. But thankfully we did it the right way around. And the Oakland city inspector wanted to see all the paperwork. So here you can see the pumper is ready to go. He's got his pumping line that runs down the driveway. That's his pumping machine there. So the concrete truck is going to back up into that and dump the concrete into that grate, which is then going to go into the pumper, and it's going to get pumped along this line. And that's Dean, Mr. Nice Guys. Definitely recommend him if you're looking for pumping services. Did a great job. These are the core samples for the special inspector, where they take some samples of the concrete and test for compressile strength. And you can see that the concrete truck is rolling in. This is the first one, and that guy on the right was the special inspector. He has to stand around and kind of watch the concrete being poured and make sure that he gets those samples from all of the trucks, all of the mixes that come in. So this was a 3,100 PSI mix. You can see Dean is getting everything ready. He's going to signal to the guy to back up to the right spot so he can start letting his concrete flow into the back of his pump. And it's a pretty cool thing to see, you know, all of this coordination. Thankfully, you know, Dean, he's good friends with the finisher that I used, Dave. And so they were a good team working together. And actually, Dean, the pumper, he helped kind of bring some of the concrete into the foundation, was pumping as the finishers were spreading and screeding and all that. So now the concrete's being pumped, and Dean is just running back there to tell the guys that it's about to come out, and we're going to go back there and see what's going on. So a big long line, and you can see they're pouring it into the footing already, and there it goes. So they started with the footings and they're filling those up. This guy's going to start tapping the sides of the forms here with a hammer. And that's to remove some of the air pockets to prevent those kind of voids that you sometimes see. They actually bought a vibrator as well. That works, I think, a lot better. And I did see some voids in the side of the concrete here. I think part of it was because the last truck came really late. There was a big delay between the second and third trucks. So that was a little bit stressful. But yeah, there he is tapping those forms to try and get out the air pockets. They're going to keep on going around filling those footings as best they can. But it's a lot of concrete, so you know, there's 3 trucks. I think we got to 27 cubic yards in total with this.
How's the mix looking?
So he's now got the vibrator out to get rid of those air pockets in the concrete. Does a really good job. You can kind of see the concrete sinking down as you turn it on, and that's all the air being removed. So definitely an important step. In many ways, I wish they'd done a bit more vibrating, especially along the front that you could see, but it was all good in the end. So at this point, I think we're just waiting for another concrete truck to arrive, and they are marking out where the control joints are going to go, and I think they're also putting in a marker for the height in the middle of the slab, so they can make sure that the slab is as flat as they can get. One other option would be to use a laser level. That's not what these guys did, but it turned out pretty flat. I will say they did a good job.
How is it looking so far?
Oh, everything's
Yeah?
looking good. Now, how many yards you order? everything?
18 plus,
18 plus?
but I think it's going to be 25 probably.
Okay, so what they charge you for? 18 right now?
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as this truck empties, we do a takeoff. See what we need to finish.
Yeah.
We're now beginning to pour the rest of the slab. Now they've done most of the footings, and you can see them screeding off using that 2x4, trying to get it as level as possible. Looks pretty good. And this is a father and daughter concrete finishing team here, which is pretty cool.
Don't worry about the hose. I'll move it around you. I don't want you tripping trying to avoid the hose. Just step back. I'll move it around you. Yes, please.
We did run into a slight issue here where the third truck took a really long time to show up. Almost like an hour and a half or 2 hours between the trucks. And ideally they come straight away. And so these guys were getting a little bit stressed about that, because what you don't want is a cold joint between two pours of concrete. Thankfully it did eventually show up and we could move on to the next step. So you can see running the bull plate here, get that nice finish on the concrete. So now this is the last step of finishing the concrete. You can see we've removed the anchor bolt holders at this point because they would have left an imprint in the concrete, and they're just polishing off the edges. Dave is putting in those control joints for cracks, and this is the finished product. So as you can see, the forms are still on, but looks very flat and turned out to be pretty flat. Not perfect, but I think it's almost impossible to get perfect. We had to add a bit of leveling compound to do the floors, but it was almost there. You can see the control joints there. They put a sealer on there, on that surface, to try and keep in some of the moisture and avoid having to water the slab. That gives it more strength if it keeps in the moisture. I did actually water it a little bit from time to time because I thought that wouldn't hurt. You can see all of the anchor bolts there, the plumbing, the electrical conduit coming up there, our rebar verts, and some of the anchor bolts aren't completely straight, but not a big issue. I think that's pretty typical. Thankfully all the forms held pretty well. I will say there was a little bit of bowing on one of them because it really is a lot of weight with all of this concrete, but by and large they held up, which is really good. And here you can see just a few photos of the finished product ready for the forms to be taken off. And so now, once the slab has had a bit of time to harden, you certainly don't want to put too much weight on it before it gets a chance to do that. So I think this is maybe a week or two later, but we are getting the CMU blocks delivered to the site. As you can see, this little loader just about squeezed onto the driveway, and it's going to deliver them to the back of the driveway here, ready to be installed. And so these are 4 by 12 by 8 CMU blocks with a hollow core. So that allows the rebar verts to go into those, and then you can fill those with grout to give a really strong finish. And it's a lot of blocks. We actually needed to get a few more blocks just to finish the walls off in the end, but that wasn't an issue. But again, you know, staging your materials is really important, and being able to get them loaded onto the driveway close to where they're going to be installed is really important. So you can see that this is our little dog here, but we have started on the installation of these CMU blocks. And you know, as you can see, they're going up on these two sides, and we've put in these brick ties that are going to tie into the framed wall that's going to sit alongside the CMU block wall. This is the backside, and so we're actually painting this with a kind of waterproof paint. I forget the name of the product, but just to give it a bit more durability. And you know, this is how the slab is looking at this point, and these guys are well on their way to getting this wall up and finished. So here you can just see a few more close-ups of the wall. Of course, it's incredibly important to get these plumb, which is hard to do with a 4-inch block actually. So these guys did a really excellent job, a father and son team, and you can see this is pretty much the finished product with the CMU block wall. Just showing around the sides. This is where the drainage is going to be, the French drain and the downspout drain. But this is the finished CMU block wall. You've got these brick ties. These little strings are actually to deal with an issue of getting our shear wall, which is going to have a piece of plywood on one side, on that back side, getting those brick ties through that, through holes in the plywood, and then landing them on the framing. So that's kind of the idea that we came up with to do that. So you can see the block wall here, pretty solid. It's been filled with grout, and it's got these rebar verts in. You've got this flashing detail here, just to channel any fluid that might come through that wall and avoid it from getting on the timber. And you can see the edge of the slab here, and that's a French drain that we're putting alongside the outside of the slab, just to prevent any water getting up into that slab. But it is quite high off the ground, so you know, shouldn't really be an issue. And you can see our anchor bolts here. You can see a few voids in the concrete here, so that's really where maybe it could have been vibrated better. That's actually our cold joint there. You can see that line there, that crack, and that's because the third concrete truck didn't come for like 2 hours after the second. So that was unfortunate, but yeah, not much we could do about that. And those darker areas are just areas where I've filled in some of the voids in the concrete.